Hi everybody, it's Marcus Collins from MA Properties. So it's early 2025, and so that means one thing, that's the MA Properties 2024-2025 market review. This year I decided to take the videos and split them into three. Single family, new construction and luxury, and then condominiums. Hopefully they're more digestible in these kind of shorter, because I have quite a lot to say specifically around what's going on in the market and perhaps what's going on kind of longer term in the market too. So I wanted to kind of break that video up into the three different sectors, if you will. So in this video, I'm going to show you lots of information. And so, where can you get that information if I don't cover it in this video? Two main sources of what you're going to see tonight, actually. The first one is maproperties.com. If you go to the statistics tab, I can never say that, stats tab, you will find lots of different statistics for about 50 different towns. Condominium, single family as well, so it's broken up however you want to or need to get that information. So there is lots of information in the stats section on maproperties.com. As well as that, there is the market review. You should have received this now. If you live in Lexington, if you don't live in Lexington, let us know and we can get you a copy. You'll also be at open houses we're holding at the moment. Lots of information in there, broken down by single family, luxury, new construction, and condominiums, and then a final section on what our 2025 predictions are. So lots of information in there, not just the graphs, many of which you're going to see in this video, but also the analysis that goes along with that. So that's where you can get all of this information if you want to do it after you've watched what I'm going to talk about. So in this video, I'm going to talk, as I said, specifically around condominiums. Then I'm going to look at the kind of wider perspective, what's happening in the market. And then I will be brave or foolish, however you look at it, to give you the predictions for 2025 and actually we'll do a little bit more than that, specifically in that analysis section too. So, condominiums. This graph is the number of listings over the last decade. All of the graphs you'll see are over the last decade. So I give 10 years worth of data to give you some kind of historical context for it. What this doesn't show you is the number of units which were new construction versus non-new construction. And so some of the peaks you see there, specifically in 21, actually in 22 as well, were where new construction developments came online. They tend to come online not in ones or twos, but in kind of 10s or 15s and so on as new developments come on stream. And so, but what's interesting is that if you look at existing condominiums, that's the excluding the new construction, we saw about the same number of listings between 2022 and 2023. It's about the same. When we look at 23-24, it's about an 18% decrease in the number of listings, and you kind of can see that in this graph. We see something similar in single family, except we didn't see a static between 22 and 23. We saw a somewhat dramatic reduction there as well. So condominiums have been sort of a year later, if you will, than single family, but that overall reduction in the number of listings, we now see it across both single family and condominium sectors. With less listings, almost inevitably, I'd say about 18% less listings, come less sales. Here, blue is existing condos and the green is the new construction. And you can see there that reduction from 52 sales to 41 sales for existing condominiums, about a 21% decrease in the number of sales. So 18% less listings, 21% less sales. So that's the seller's perspective, if you will. Now let's look at it from a buyer's perspective. We look at two metrics. First one is days on the market. As you can see, we see an increase in the number of days on the market from 23 to 31. That's quite high, and it's high because with less listings, you would expect to see more competition and therefore days on the market to be lower than we saw in 2023, but it's much higher. So I would treat 31 as a dramatic increase because, all things being equal, with less listings, that number should have been less than 23. So big increase in the number of days on the market. The other metric we look at is sale price to list price ratio. So imagine a home comes on the market at 800,000, sells for 800,000. That's a 100% sale price to list price ratio. Historically, single families have been running around 99, 98%. Condominiums are slightly higher than that, as you can see, around about 100, sometimes 101, 102. They're more affordable than single families, and so there was a little bit more competition. But we've been relatively static now after COVID, 102 last year and 102, a little bit less in 2024. Similarly with the days on the market, with less listings, you would expect increased competition, and therefore you would have expected that number to be higher than we saw in 2023. So actually it's slightly lower than we see, but that again is an indication of a somewhat depressed market. And so that's what's going on here. And it's unsurprisingly that buyers are looking at these, looking at high condominium fees, looking at high mortgage repayments, and just scaling back essentially what they can afford, and that kind of plays out with this days on the market and sale price to list price ratio. And in terms of average prices, relatively static, 885 last year, 907 this year. Not a big difference, it's about 2.5%. For context, single family was at about 5%. So lower price appreciation in the condominium market than we've seen in the single family, but about consistent with what we've seen over the last couple of years as well. So that's the kind of average price. So what's happening to cause what we've just seen in the market? So unsurprisingly, the primary factor, in fact, arguably the only factor, of course, is mortgage interest rates. This is the mortgage interest rate since 2020, and you can see that low interest rates there, that 2021 timeframe, dramatic rise in 22, 23, and then it's been relatively static since then. What that means is, and actually let me go forward and kind of show you, and then I'll go back to that graph because there's something to kind of explain what's going on using that. As you can see, this is 2023 through 2025, relatively static in terms of that. A few, ups and downs, a few, interest rates coming down, and then all that enthusiasm, that confidence dissipates as interest rates go back up again. So essentially relatively the same, around about that kind of 7% or so. And I think at the moment, from recollection, it's just marginally below 7%, the average 30-year fixed rate. Let me go back to this graph. Excuse me for going back, but let me go back to this one because this really does explain what's happening specifically with the sellers. Most sellers have a very low, in comparison today, mortgage interest rate because they either bought pre-2022, or they refinanced as rates got down to those very low levels. So the majority of homeowners today have very low interest rate loans. And now they're in the situation where I can sell the existing home I've got. Market's not as buoyant as I would like, but I want to move to a different house, bigger or smaller, whatever their new requirements are. But I don't want to do that because, lo and behold, I'll be swapping a 3% mortgage for a 7% mortgage, and that's a real disincentive. And that's true not just in Lexington, not just in Massachusetts, but across the United States. That we're seeing far fewer home listings, and therefore home sales. Because many sellers are locked into that 30-year fixed at a very low interest rate, and there's a definite disincentive to sell because what they have to buy is they're going to be correspondingly more expensive in terms of repayment. In terms of buyers, their time frame, they don't have that 3% problem, if you will. Problem, you get the idea. They're thinking 7%, it is what it is. It doesn't look like it's going to do very much over the next 6-12 months or so. I'll a little bit more about that in a minute. So I may as well buy. But because interest rates are so high, I'm constrained by how much I can afford because of my repayments. So where are interest rates going to go? Well, This is what the Mortgage Banker Association forecast shows. The blue is actuals. The green is the forecast from MBA. And as you can see, very little change between now through the end of 2025, and actually very little change through the end of 2026. Now, there's a high degree of uncertainty in this, unsurprisingly, but it does look like we're not going to see, a dramatic decrease in interest rates in the, let's call it the medium term. This has implications for what do we see over the next 2, 3, 4 years. And I'm going to be brave here and try and give you a sense of where we're going to be in 3 to 4 years' time. We were looking at one of two scenarios. One was interest rates decline not as rapidly as they increased, but they declined at a steady clip. Trend was definitely downwards. That would potentially have brought more sellers into the market because, yes, I see the downward trend. I see where it's going. Sure, I can refinance, but you know what? It's on a one-way trip and it's down to a lower number. Buyers as well see, okay, I can chase interest rates down with a refinance. So that would have brought a lot more sellers into the market and a lot more buyers, or increased buyer confidence. I don't know, it would have brought more buyers in. There are a lot at the moment, to be fair, but it would have certainly given buyers more confidence. And when interest rates were very low and there was talk of them rising, 5.5% was seen as something of a kind of tipping point, the point at which sellers and buyers would be inclined to stay put, basically. Buyers not to enter the market, interest rates are too high. Sellers not to enter the market because I'm going to stay where I am. And so 5.5 was that kind of, let's not exceed 5.5% because that's when it'll put the brakes on the housing market. Clearly, we're way past that. But if you play that in reverse, 5.5 is the point at which more confidence comes into the market. But it would appear anyway that we're way away from that. And so, scenario one of interest rates decline, lots of buyers, lots of sellers come into the market, almost like a COVID effect, if you like. That seems unlikely. Scenario two, where we see a gradual increase in the number of sellers coming into the market as rates gradually decline, hopefully, seems much more likely. And I've kind of tried to show that here. Don't pay much attention to the numbers. Look at the trend, I think is how I would say this. I had to put some numbers in there. Also, this is a combination of single family and condominiums. So if you look at those numbers and go, that's higher than condos and higher than single family, it's because I added the two together. So it's the kind of the overall housing market, condo and single family. And so it seems much more likely that we'll see this gradual increase in the number of sellers as interest rates go down, because it requires more than just interest rates. It requires sellers to have low interest rates, but also to be confident. And I think we need both of those really to see that kind of bolus of homes come on the market. And neither of those seems to be on the horizon. And so it does look like we're going to see a gradual increase in the number of listings kind of moving forward to, perhaps the historic norm within 3 to 4 years. That seems to be where we are. There's one other effect that we need to think about specifically around Lexington. I think you could, with the exception of the numbers, you could say that about most towns, probably not even just in Massachusetts, or certainly not in Massachusetts, maybe even the country. But there's one other effect now. Real estate is local, so there's kind of layer on top of the local effect that's happening in the town. And specifically, the MBTA, the multifamily zoning, whatever word you put to it, that's thrown a lot of uncertainty in terms of the number of condominiums. This is now, back to the condo market versus the market in general. A relatively large number of condominiums coming on stream. The exact number, I think, is open to question. There are lots of questions being asked about whether the assumptions made at the beginning in terms of how many acres we should set aside for MBTA was realistic. The consensus seems to be that it was too high. That will lead to too many homes being built. That will have implications for the high school, and so on and so forth. So irrespective of that, it does seem like there's going to be some kind of scaling back of the MBTA multifamily zoning area. So we potentially will see, there's a potential here, less condominiums coming on stream to buy than we were thinking previously. So I've kind of layered on, again, my thoughts on this. No specificity to this, but I wanted to put something in there that looks realistic. And where would that play out in comparison to where we were historically? And it looks like if this kind of these scenario 2, as I'd explained it, as well as less condominiums coming on the market, looks like it'll play out that we will end up with as many home sales as we saw during that kind of COVID phase. Remembering though that the mix is different. Now it's going to be more condominiums, relatively static, a slight increase in the number of single family, more condominiums. So I feel that even though these numbers look relatively small and look like it can be absorbed, it will have a detrimental impact on the condominium market, existing condominium market. And let me throw one other curveball in there as well, because I think this is also going to impact the condominium market as well. And that is the number of rental units coming on. We have much more specificity on this one, I should say, than we do on the number of units that are going to be bought, because we have a number of projects coming on stream, approved, and 2 more, in fact, going through the approval process. So what I've tried to show here, or showed here, is the number of existing rental units, that is existing homes where a homeowner has decided to rent it out instead of selling it, single family and condominium. That's running at about, was almost 200 during COVID, and then it's dropped back now to 170 or so. That's the blue area, the blue bar there. The pink area, red or pink area, is Avalon. There are 585 units in the 2 Avalon complexes. That's not changing. It's going to remain at 585. What we will see now in terms of the green, the light green area, is the number of condominium units coming on stream. And by this, I mean Hartwell Ave, Concord Ave, the other, which are approved, the other one on Hartwell, and then Militia Drive, which are going through the approval process as we speak, or as we record. That will have a downward impact on the existing rental units. Not Avalon, that's fixed, but on the existing rental units. And I say that because about 50% of the rental units today are 3 bedrooms or less, which is exactly the number of rental, or the characteristics, I should say, of the rental units that are being developed. And so it'll have a major impact on 3 bedrooms and less, because there's a lot coming on stream. The other thing this will bring in as well, though, is choice, because I could buy a new development condominium, as we were talking about the condo market. There's more coming on stream. Potentially the HOA fee will be lower. We'll see about price. We'll see quite where they end up price-wise, but certainly the condo fee will be lower. I could buy an existing condominium. I'm a little concerned about the high HOA fee. Just to put that HOA fee in perspective, it's half in Arlington that it is in Lexington. Now, there's clear reasons for that. Most of the condominiums in Arlington are in 2-family units. Most of the condominiums in Lexington are in developments which have more facilities. So unsurprisingly, the condo fee is higher. But when you're talking about a condo fee of $300 to $400 versus a condo fee of $400 to $900, or sorry, $800 to $900, it's a big difference. And so these new units will come on stream with high interest rates, and potentially buyers of those condominiums may say, I'm going to rent for a while. I'm going to let interest rates play out and I'll rent for a while. So I think the combination of new units, high HOA fee for the existing condominium developments, and rental units that give potential buyers choice, overall will have an impact, a negative impact, on the existing condominium market. So that's why I wanted to bring that kind of rental units discussion into this. So, predictions, 2025. What do I see? This comes right out of the market review, and it really, kind of characterizes or puts succinctly, more succinctly than I probably did in my talk there, about what's happening. The first one is the new construction condominiums. A lot of uncertainty there. that looks like it will probably have played out by the end of the year. So we'll have a little bit more specificity, if you will, in terms of how this is going to play out towards the end of this year. We certainly don't have it today. So we'll have a better handle when we do the 25-26 market review. Rental units are coming on stream. There's a lot that have been approved. There are more, almost double that number again that are in the approval process. So they look like they're coming on stream. And then with the high condominium HOA fees, those three things mean that I think we'll see existing condominium sales at about the same number that we've seen this year. That's between 40 and 50, probably edging towards the lower number. And given the high interest rates, that having a negative impact on buyers being able to afford, and willing to afford, I think price appreciation will remain relatively static, and depending on what comes on stream, perhaps decline throughout 2025. So that's my predictions for 2025, and you've seen my kind of predictions for it moving forward. So hopefully that was interesting, and I don't know why that screen went blank then, but anyway, we go back. There we go. Thank you. Thank you for watching. Sorry about that. Thank you for watching. Lots of information there. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. We love talking about these things, so reach out if you have, want to get some more information about some specific aspects of it. So with that, I'll say thank you for watching and goodbye.